Hey, Sri, how are you?
Good, Ketan. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Yeah, Ketan, the boundary dispute
Yeah.
talk. I think the what our previous seller did was he encroached a little bit. That's what I'm guessing he's complaining about when he
Okay.
paved the driveway.
Uh-huh.
So I think so the driveway comes out, right? When he comes out and it curves a little bit. So the curve is actually extended into his lot, little bit, the edge of the curve.
I see. Okay.
So because when the plots, both ends of the plots are like a straight line, correct? The straight lines, right? So like the driveway is coming extended a little bit off of the straight line. Here, I'll send you the picture.
Okay.
The picture.
Yeah. Send me the picture when you get a chance. Hang on one second. Let me put my phone on the mute. Give me a second here. Yeah, when you get a chance, just shoot me a picture of it, and I'll
I
take
just
a look
send
at
you. I just send you. Can you bring up the picture?
it. You just sent it to me. It may take a minute for my emails to download. They're always slow. You sent it to me by picture. I mean by email.
Yeah, I just send it to you.
Okay. All right. Give me a minute. I'll pull it up in a minute.
Sure.
I'll pull it up in a minute. Yeah, it's still down. It's not downloading yet. My Outlook is horrible when it comes to that. So yeah, it's the wonderful world of technology, I guess you can say. Hi,
Yeah.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Give us a few minutes. We're just getting started, and I usually people show up at about 5:35.
Yeah. No.
So,
No worries. I was actually just making sure I was in here. No worries at all.
No worries at all. That sounds good. All right, sounds good. And then, do you know if Srinivas is going to join us as well?
I don't think. I think he had a conflict this evening, which is why I was kind of
Got it.
stepping in for him. So I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll give everybody. Let's give everybody a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, give everybody a few minutes to start joining.
Okay, great. I do have a link to share with everybody. Should I just throw that in the chat when I'm done, or send it to you somehow? What's the best way you think?
Yeah, either way works. So if you want to just add it to the chat, that's great. And then what we can do is after the meeting, if you want, you can send it to me.
Okay.
You reply back and then I can share it with the team is what we can do.
Sounds
That
great.
works?
Absolutely.
So that way they have a, because here's the thing, we'll have probably about 15 to 20 on our Zoom today. But we have 165, so you're going to miss out on the other 140 at that point. So
Wait, piece by piece.
yeah, absolutely. All right.
Is it the ANKPARIKH at SBC Global? Is that the best? All right, I'll send it to you right now so you have it too. Okay, great.
Sure. All right, let me just send a quick text out to the team. And
yeah,
then
great.
Get started.
Thanks so much, Ketan.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, Rajani, thanks for joining. Veronica, thank you.
Hi.
We're going to give everybody a few minutes here. And I'm going to step away.
Is it only me and you? Oh, everybody's joining now.
Hey, Nobay, how are you?
Very good, Ketan. Sorry, I decided let me just join this meeting. If you want, I can drop out.
No, you're good. You're good. You can absolutely join. This is actually going to be a really, really good session. So it's a three-parter. So we cover half of it today, and then the other half next week. It might bleed into 3 weeks. Just depends on how many questions we get and so forth. So we're at 10. John, do you want to wait at least another couple of minutes, or you want to get started? Whatever works for you.
I'm happy to wait. I booked out the time, so happy.
All right, sounds good. All right. All right. So, and yeah, we're going to have folks that are going to continue to join as we go through this. So just a little bit, I want to go ahead and give everybody else on our Zoom here a little bit of an introduction. So John Kuntz is with Aflac. He's going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes just kind of going over it. And I know he's got a couple of hopefully slides or just a presentation, or even if you want to do it, however works for you. And it's, I have a good friend of mine that I guess John's counterpart. He couldn't make it today, but he is, he's with Aflac. Both Rachel and I did do it, did sign up for it. It's a great thing to have, I think, if you don't have insurance, if you have limited insurance, but more than that, I'm going to have him talk through it for a few minutes. And then once John's done, we'll go ahead and get started on the today's training sessions. All right. I'm going to put myself on mute, John, and let you, do you need presentation, or how are we doing this?
I can just share the screen, I think. Yeah. Yep. I can just share the screen. So yep, I'll be all set here.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Like I said, I'll make this very, very brief. Yes, I'm actually a district sales coordinator with Aflac. Been with the company over 13 years. And Srini, who was a colleague of mine, was nice enough to help introduce tonight. He had an engagement, so I'm filling in. For those who have access to it, I did actually put a link into the chat. And I've actually also just forwarded the information on to Ken also, so that he can share it with you as well. That link is going to do a little bit of a recap of what we've talked about here. And I know, of course, this is being recorded, so that's something that hopefully can just fill in there on the other side. I've also sent over the presentation that I'm about to give as well. The great part about the link that I've sent, it's got some very informative and also extremely short videos that you can utilize. It's going to work great on your mobile devices, whether that's, so it's going to be very easy for you to kind of review the information I'm talking about right now. And what's even better is there's actually a link in there which will allow you to set up a follow-up meeting with me. So there's a Calendly and a Zoom link that's going to pop up right into your calendar if you actually pop through that. To kind of just follow up with what was kind of said there, the whole idea behind what Aflac does is we pay for the things that health insurance doesn't cover. So if somebody has a health insurance plan that has a lot of gaps in it, so a lot of out-of-pocket expenses or things like that, it comes in handy more than what one might think off the top of the head. But also it's there to help to make sure that if you were ever in a situation where you aren't being able to pull in your full paycheck, we're going to send those benefits directly to you as well. And so one of the things that people know us most for is our disability policy. The nice part is we're going to be able to help replace a good chunk of your lost income if you were out because you got hurt or you got sick, or if you had to go on a maternity leave, something like that, or even going through something as we've all seen over the last couple of years like COVID. So our programs are designed to fill in that gap between your take-home pay and your bills. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a screen share right now. Let's see, is that Puha? If you, or Katan, if you could actually just give me a thumbs up when you see the screen share to make sure that it's there, okay?
It's coming, yep.
Perfect, all right, thank you. So a lot of times when people go through situations where they get hurt or they get sick, and especially if you have to miss work, one of the things we've been trained, so to speak, to think about is how bad our medical bills might be, right? And we break a leg, or we want to have a baby, or we go through COVID or cancer, and we might just think very simply, gosh, I'm going to have these huge medical bills. How am I going to be able to afford that? One of the things that we also think about as well, though, is the fact that when we do have these massive out-of-pocket expenses because of our medical bills, or we're not able to go and do the day-to-day work items that we need to, one of the things we kind of skip in our brain at first is the fact that we still have to pay our everyday bills, our rent, our mortgage, our car payments, our grocery bills, things like that. So what Aflac does, instead of paying hospitals and doctors the way that health insurance does, is we actually pay our benefits directly to you. It's a cash benefit. There are no taxes included, and you actually get to use those funds as you see fit. So if you needed to, take care of that medical bill, that's spectacular. But if you really just needed to make sure that you could, pay your everyday expenses, like your overhead or the things that your paycheck is for, that's great. It's up to you. And the thing that's really important as well is we pay our claims really fast. And so I'm talking, the 3 to 5 day range, not the 3 to 6 month range. So if you do go through a situation where you were hurt or you were sick and you couldn't, pull in the everyday income that you normally plan on, that's really what Aflac is there to help out. One of the other things that's really important as well, and again, like I said, you'll have access to this document so you can kind of read through it, is you can really pick and choose the programs that are going to make the most sense for you. So a couple of things to kind of just cover real quick. I'll give you a quick intro to the policies, and then I really recommend just taking a few minutes to schedule an appointment with me so that we can kind of review it. And then if you decide to enroll, that's great. If you don't, of course, at least you have the education and knowing that, that your company is taking a lot of effort to make sure that you are protected. You all do a great job making sure people can go through the very difficult thing these days of finding a home. And our job is to make sure that you can keep it. And that's really the idea behind why this partnership has happened. So again, just to reiterate, when we pay a benefit, whether it's for doctor visits or trips to the ER or the emergency room, spending a lot of time in the hospital, or just being out of work for several weeks or months, the cash that we pay goes directly to you and not a hospital or a doctor. Our programs can also cover your whole family. And a lot of times we have families these days where we've kind of split our health insurance coverage up, especially if we have both spouses working or something like that. One will take themselves, one will take themselves, and then put the kids on it. You can put the whole family on these Aflac programs, and they don't have to sync up with the way that your health insurance is set. And again, because we're paying cash, most people really use these benefits for the everyday living expenses. Some people be very particular and put it in a special envelope and wait till the bill comes in. But we know that if the rent is not paid on time and the car notes and the cell phones, we lose those things. Another thing that's very unique as well, as you'll see here, our plans we call guaranteed renewable. This is very, very unique in the insurance world. And what this means is as you use your product and keep your product, the rates are not going to change with how you use it. So oftentimes, like with our car insurance or even our health insurance, if we go through something very severe, right, we're kind of scared to make a claim because we know that our rates are just going to shoot up, and that's a monthly bill we get stuck with every single month. In this case, the nice part is the fact that you'll never have to worry about that. So if you do have to go get yourself checked out or take care of yourself, the nice part is that you know that it's going to take care of you, and the rates are not going to change. We never want you to leave ReKonnection, but if you did, you can actually take these programs with you. And the reason that's important is that you're going to be getting about a 60% discount on these plans. And if you were just watching your social media or the NCAA tournament that starts tomorrow and saw our commercials, and you went to go buy something, you get a huge discount because it's actually through the firm. And that's something that's really great. We also have never raised our rates on our policyholders. And it's really important, I think, to have that trust there. And as I mentioned before, we pay our claims really fast. I recently did a claim for my family where we had, an ICU visit for several weeks. And we sent in 400 pages of the bills and notes, and it was a huge claim, and we got it paid within 5 days, and it was almost $50,000. And that really helped us out because that let us, take those 5-6 weeks with our family to not stress about getting the day-to-day things done. That's an extreme case. It's a huge claim. It's the biggest one I've ever worked on. But whether it's even something that's smaller, knowing you can get taken care of is a big deal. We're an ethical company, and I say that not just because the job that Srinivas and I do, but as a corporate entity, we actually just got the announcement 2 hours ago that this 15 years in a row of getting an ethical rating just went to number 16. We're the only company in the world that's been on it all 16 years. And that to me says a lot because insurance companies can be very difficult to deal with. I hate it. I don't like dealing with insurance companies. So when I'm going to sign up for something that's going to protect my family, my income, it's important to me to know that it works. Also, our programs are very affordable. I do have a rate sheet that I'm going to show you just real quick, but we don't want you spending more than about an hourly wage per week. I know when we're talking about commissions and things like that, that can be a kind of a tough thing to figure out, but that's something that will help you understand what a budget should look like. We don't want you to spend too much money on this. And I know most people, when they're giving you a presentation, want you to get everything, but we want to make sure this fits for you. It doesn't make any sense to do financial planning that you can't afford. And the other thing that's big, again, is because we pay the cash to you, you get to decide what it goes towards. Is it the health insurance bills you have, or is it the out-of-pocket costs, and also things that affect your income? So these are the basic programs I have available. It's a nice little cliff notes. Again, you're going to have this document to review, and we're going to go through it more thoroughly so that something makes sense for you. Everything here is a la carte, so you can pick and choose what makes the most sense for you, whether it's the coverage itself and or the budget. So the first thing that most people think about is, what if I'm going to be out of work for weeks or months because I got hurt or I got sick, I went through COVID, or I wanted to have a baby? We're going to pay benefits up to about half of your income while you're out, so that you can at least cover those have-tos. And you know that that's going to be okay while you get better. And so that's going to be for a situation that pays on the time that you're out. The next programs we have would cover things that your health insurance won't cover. So this hospital policy goes side by side with a health insurance plan, pays for doctor visits, the ER, pays up to $2,000 your first night in the hospital, and even things for inpatient, outpatient surgeries and MRIs and CT scans, et cetera. One of our most popular policies is this accident plan. It is for injuries, right? And the reason that's important is basically 80% of our visits to the emergency room are because you got hurt. All right. When we get hurt and sick, we get sick, we can often, take some extra Tylenol or do some vitamins and things like that. But when bones are sticking out, you got to go in. So this does for things that, whether you're home or at school. It's great for our kids when they're playing sports or just doing dumb things that kids do. It pays for the urgent cares and ERs. I mean, my last time I broke my tooth eating some food, and so it helped me out with my dental bill. So whatever it happens to be, how that's going to help you out. Another one that most people don't ever like to talk about is our critical illness and injury. This is for the really serious things like cancer and heart attack and stroke. Those are the three main things that both A, kill us, and B, send us to bankruptcy. And that's why I have programs set for those. Those have huge lump sum benefits, and they also help you go through treatment. So you can actually pick your treatment before your insurance company does. And that's one of the nice parts about it. So these are all a la carte. You pick and choose what makes the most sense for you. And that's when you see that link that's there, we're going to be able to help you with that. And so I just want to show you what that looks like real quick, and then I'm about done with this first part of the presentation. So this is what the page looks like. There's a great about a minute long video that you can review effectively what I've just talked about. And you can also do a little review on each of the policies. They've got a great little video that are about a minute long. You can also look at the brochures that are here as well on what the accident policy looks like and things like that. And then when you're ready to schedule your appointment, we're going to get this all done during March. It's not going to take more than about a half an hour for you to also review this with me, but also take care of your enrollment. And this is going to open up my Calendly. So like next Tuesday works for you, just click on the link and just fill out your schedule. It's very, very quick. And as I said before, there's also going to include a Zoom link in there, so we can also kind of do this as close to face-to-face as possible. And then lastly, before I pass it back over and you guys get into your excellent training, just one more thing to give you an idea on when we say these are affordable programs. These are monthly rates. The plan started about $20 a month for something like an accident plan. And if you want to cover your spouse or your kids or vice versa, you can add them right on. This is our COVID coverage. It's got a great plan if you get hospitalized for a long time for COVID. And then things go on in there. Everything's going to be a la carte. And what I'm really good at is finding what fits best for you and your budget. So sometimes we like to put a couple plans together, but not kill the budget. That's where that's going to go into, whether it's the cancer plan, heart attack and stroke, or things like disability and even dental. Okay, we have a good dental program also. So that's the bulk of what I had to talk about. Just to give you a quick little intro. I'm really grateful that we had the time to speak with you all. As Ketan mentioned, he and some others have already enrolled in this. It's a very simple thing where the premiums for the policies are just going to come out of your paycheck. So I don't need to actually worry about, getting your banking information. The underwriting is very simple. And also you get, as I said before, because of the relationship that we have with ReKonnection, you're getting about a 60% discount on these programs. So like, as I said, the link is in the chat. I also gave it to Ketan with that little PowerPoint I just did. And then if there's any questions, you can also just shoot me a quick note out of there as well. And that's it.
John, thank you so much. So does anybody have any questions initially for John? Or now the link that you sent, is that a link to the PowerPoint or is that a link to you directly?
So the link that's there, that's a link to this page here. And when the nice part with it, that my email is there, my cell phone is there. I know it's an LA number, but I am here in the DFW area. This gets started. That's what takes you to my calendar. And if I did actually send this over to you right before I started, that PDF that I went through, that's attached to the email. So you can actually just forward that out to everybody also, and they'll get both.
Sounds good. Thank you so
All right.
much. I really
Okay.
appreciate that.
All right, I look forward to speaking with all of you, hopefully at least some of you. But I'm actually going to exit out of here. And if you need anything, like I said, click on that link and schedule some time, or of course, ask the boss how I can help you, and we'd be happy to hop right in there.
All right, John, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
a
so
lot.
much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, John. Appreciate
Thank you.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So this right here, what we're going to do today is part of the real estate marketing boot camps. Typically, what we do is all of our real estate marketing boot camps run about 45 minutes, at the most an hour. So a lot of times what's going to happen is that some of these sessions will go or will be extended to the following week. And especially with this particular topic, the landing your first listing, it does cover at least 2, possibly 3 weeks of just kind of, you know, going through the basics of this. So it is a lengthy discussion at the end of the day. So a couple of things, ground rules. We do require you guys, if you don't mind, to go ahead and put your video on. And one of the reasons why is because we try to make this interactive. I will be asking questions as we go through this. Obviously, if you're not able to put your video on, that's perfectly okay. I will still ask you guys questions as we go through this. The session itself today will probably last exactly about another 45 minutes. We're going to go through the initial part of it, and then next week we're going to go into a more of a deeper dive. All right, let me bring it up and let me start sharing my screen. So give me 1 second, guys, and we'll get started here. Are you guys able to see are you guys able to see my screen, first of all?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So, oh, where did it go? There we go. All right. Let's see what happened. Are you still able to see it? Yep.
Oh,
All right.
oh yes.
All right. Perfect. Okay. So this is basically Real Estate Marketing Bootcamp. It's part of the series that we have. So the actual sessions there's actually 10 to 12 topics that we cover at least twice a year. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to mix in some of these Real Estate Marketing Bootcamp REMBC topics series into our regular weekly schedules. And that's kind of what we're doing today. Here's what we're going to cover. It's going to be an introduction. So today we're going to at least cover the introduction to your client, preparing the CMA, preparing the listing agreement is going to be part of next week, using professional photography, input to MLS showings, what to do once you get to that point of closing, and any other Q&As that we might have. And then of course, the appendix itself of this presentation has sample email templates, additional references that you can basically reference, resource down the road. We will provide this particular presentation is also on our back agent. I just updated it recently, so I may go ahead and just reintroduce that one to you guys here after the 3 sessions, or 2 or 3 sessions that we do in the next couple of weeks. All right. So the first thing is meeting with your client. It's basically the onboarding process, right? So when we think about how this whole process works, more than likely your client, it could be a former client, it could be a new client, it could be a referral. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to reach out to you, right? And they're going to be on the phone with you or text and say, hey, Jay, I'm looking at selling my house, or I'm looking at leasing my house. Those are the first 2 conversations you will have. When that happens, what we need to do as realtors is identify their situations, right? You gotta start asking them, so obviously first thing is, great, thank you for reaching out to me. Would love to be able to help you. Can I ask you a couple of questions? Right? And ideally you want to do this either face-to-face or on the phone. And if you guys are on the Zoom, if you can mute, that would be awesome. All right, so one of the main first questions you're going to ask is the reason for leasing or selling, right? You want to know Are they relocating? Are they moving into another home? Are they, if they haven't even decided on another home, guess what? Now you can also help them on the other side of finding another home, right? Is it a personal reason? Is it a family reason, right? So understanding the reason for them to make this move, reaching out to you is probably going to be the most important things. All right. And it also brings in the urgency that kind of shows how quickly their timelines are, right? I'll give you an example. Like if for example, they've already bought a new home and their new home is closing in May, and they're reaching out to you right now in middle of March, that kind of tells you, all right. And especially if they need the money out of the house that they're in today in order to put that as down payment, just be honest with them. Hey, we're gonna, obviously the market's great, so we should have no issues, but we need to kind of move on this right away. If they're planning on relocating, you want to know those things as well. All right, so before I get going, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. How do you, and I know it's already here, so it's not going to help a lot. So I'm going to just go down the line. Pooja, you are actually my first person on this list. So
Okay.
you're going to tell me, so once you've done this, right, you want to identify the owners. How do you identify the owners? What's the best way to do that?
Ask their ID, like title. What do you say? Like the county records.
Correct. Yeah. So what are you looking for in the county records? So so what's the first thing you're going to ask them? Obviously, you need to know where
Their
they
real
live,
name.
right? Where they live.
Real name.
You want to know the address of the property, right? So let's get started with that. You gotta know what they're moving into, where they're moving to. I mean, what home they're trying to sell or lease, right? So that's the first step. So once you have the address, Sridhar, you're next on my list. What are you going to do?
Well, once I have the address, then I will go into the county records and then verify if he is the right owner of the property.
Very good. Very good. All right. So the first step is you got to validate the owner's identity, right? Now, here's the thing. I know I put down here driver's license, personal referrals, and stuff like that. Okay. So if you know them, you don't need to ask them for their driver's license, right? But if you don't know them, or if it's a referral, you don't necessarily need to ask them for their driver's license. But let's say, they came back to you and said, my name is John Smith. And when you go into the tax records and you see the tax records to show John and Mary Smith. So who's next on my list? Veronica, you're next on my list. So if they are John Smith and on tax records, you see John and Mary Smith, what are you going to ask them?
Get to know a little more about Mary Smith and make sure you can identify her because they're legally both owners of the property.
Very good. Exactly. So at that point, you're going to really just politely ask them, hey, I noticed the home is under both your names. Just want to make sure that we're good to go forward on this listing agreement, because I will need to add, guess what? Both names, right? So now there are cases where, it may just be under Mary Smith's name. John Smith's name is not on the contract, or it's not on the tax records. Who's next on my list? Who is that? Rajani, is that you? So I guess that would be you. So when that happens, what happens there? In other words, now you have only Mary Smith's name, even though it's a husband and wife. What would be the situation there? Are you going to put both names in there, or are you going to put one name in there?
Because Texas is a community property, we may need to get an authorization from the husband or the spouse, or if they are married, and then make sure that he doesn't have any interest in the property before listing it.
Correct. And then the thing is, if they are married, and you're right, if it's after the fact, then it's not technically community property at that point, right? But here's the most important thing to this, is that when the title search is done, what is the first thing they look at? They see the deed, right? Because remember back when you bought the home, and a lot of times if you bought the home and the contract, which is really the loan papers, was only under one spouse, you still had to go in and do what? You had to go in and actually sign on the documents, right? Does that,
Sign the deed.
so the fact that you signed the first time around when you bought it means what? You have to sign again the second time when you go sell it. All right. So these are certain things we're just wanting to make sure you guys understand when we're actually discussing this with the clients in the first place. So I think I've talked enough about the validating ownership. Let's see who's
One
next
more
on my list.
Ketan, what if the property is under the trust or the investment or?
Yep. So you're coming up right on the right spot. So we're going to ask that next. So Sita, I know you're new. So do you want to take that on?
This is Rama.
Oh, Rama. Hey, Rama. Yes. All right. So you're new. So do you want to take that on, or do you want me to go on to the next person?
No, I will take on that.
All right, go for it. So what Rajni said, and that is exactly what we're talking about. So what if the property is under a LLC? What would be your steps to identify who owns that property?
LLC, we need to find out who are the other partners of the LLC.
Okay, I am gonna.
And we need the details of that LLC.
Yep. Where are you gonna get those details of that LLC?
LLC.
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. Yep.
Secretary
All
of
right.
State.
Yep. And when you pull up, so there is a Srinivas, I'm going to ask you next. So when you pull up the Secretary of State, what are you looking for in there to identify the LLC? It's
I just joined, Ketan.
No worries. No. So it's called the name search, right? So, if you do a Google on searching for LLC, the name, entity name of an LLC, that's how you find. Once you click on it, you're going to actually find the managers of that. And let's say if John Smith is a manager of that LLC and he's the one that contacted you, and at the end of the day, you look up the LLC, ABC Corporation, and ABC Corporation has John Smith as the managing member or one of the managing members. That checks off everything that you need. All right. Does that make sense to you guys? All right. All right. Anybody else have any questions on this before we go to the next slide? All right. So here we go. All right. So the next thing you're going to do is, Santosh, what would be the next thing you're going to do? It's on here. So we're going to kind of just follow through this. And I want you guys to really just tell me in your own words what we're talking about here. So it says, as soon as possible, visit the property. All right. Why is that? Santosh, why would you want to visit the property, and what's the basis of doing this? Right. So now you've identified the property. I haven't even done the listing agreement yet. Right. So I'm not even getting to that point. What I'm trying to do is now I'm trying to go, okay, hey, John Smith, what's a good time to visit with you on the property? I want to go take a look at it. So Santosh, why would you want to go take a look at it? Or, yep, Santosh, go ahead. Are you on mute, or you want me to? Can you hear me? We can't hear you. All right, Santosh, I'll come back to you in a minute. Bala, so let's talk about that, right? So you're going to visit the property. What's the purpose of visiting the property?
To identify the property, to see any issues with that.
Yep. All right. So exactly. So let's talk about that. You're going to visit the property you're going to see the condition of the property. That's one. What else?
Right.
What else would you be doing by visiting the property?
Maybe try to find out any improvements that can be made.
Yep. Very good. Very good. So improvements are important, right? You're gonna really just evaluate the property at that point. Now, before you do that, you're also gonna do a couple other things. You're gonna actually you want to have an idea, and you don't have to run the full CMA, but what you're going to do is you're going to have an idea of exactly how does this house compare to the 4 other houses that just recently sold, right? So most communities, what do you know about most communities? They are 2 things. They are builder and floor plan centric. What does that mean? So let's see, Anil, since you're on mute, I'm going to ask you, Anil. So when I say builder and floor plan centric, what does that mean?
I mean, I didn't get your question, but I imagine that, sorry, I'm outside, so there would be a lot of disturbance. But you want to see what subdivision it is, what's the lot number, plan number. Probably if there is an electric drawing, you want to get electric drawings to make sure if there were any alterations done after.
But I'm going to go to the next person, and we'll talk about that. Those conversations we'll talk about as well. But so let's see, Geeta, when I'm talking about builder and floor plan centric, what do you know about most communities? Any ideas? Or if anybody knows what I'm talking about, please unmute yourself. What am I saying when I say builder and floor plan centric for a community?
Oh, now I get it. I think you are talking about what are the other homes that are similar floor plan in the community, and then what they have sold for or whatever it is to prepare your CMA.
Exactly. So what we're talking about here is when you go to a subdivision, you'll notice there's 4 to 5 model homes, right? And these 4 or 5 model homes are with maybe 2 or 3 different builders. So now there's only a set of builders that are there, and now you also know that it is a set of floor plans that are there, which means that when you're going back to your CMAs, what is that going to allow you to do? It's going to allow you to identify comparable properties, right? That's basically what a CMA is at the end of the day. So when you're going to visit the home the first time, you're looking at several things. You're comparing it. You're looking at what improvements we can make. You're looking at, what's the condition of the home, right? And by looking at doing your homework, right? You have to do your homework. So when I say do your homework, that means, I got to go and look up 3109 Fernhurst Drive. And I know that's in Creek Hollow. And I've noticed that every one of those houses are selling for about 150 to 160 a square foot. So good enough for me to know where I am. At least you have the basis of where you need to be, right? Then you're going to look at some of the homes that are in that neighborhood that have sold in the last 6 months. And if you notice that every single one of them is got white cabinets or gray cabinets, it's got tile floors, it's got wood floors, it's got, newer paint and all that stuff. What does that tell you about what has happened over the past 1, 2, 5, 7 years, right? The owners of all of those homes have basically updated their homes. So when you go into this home that you're getting ready to list, and if it still looks like it's 20 years old, or it hasn't been, or it looks outdated, what is the first notation you're going to make to yourself, right? You're going to say, okay, I'm not going to be able to price, and keep in mind, your seller wants, the 160 on the square footage, right? Price per square foot. He's looking at 160. You're thinking more like 140, right? So these are certain things you got to kind of just have an idea on, compare, understand. All right. Now let's get back into the next, from property tax records, review the size, age, subdivision, and additional taxes, right? So if you're in the neighborhood of Artesia, right? So anybody familiar with Artesia over in Prosper, right? They have what we call a PID, all right? They have a planned improvement district. What that means is the developer basically put it on to the community to basically pay for the streets and the drainage and all that stuff. And that's an additional tax that you need to be aware of. And these are also some of the probing questions you need to ask your clients, your potential sellers, or and say, hey, are there any additional taxes? Keep in mind, when you go into the tax records, it gives you all the details of the different taxes that could be there. So let's go ahead and ask a question. Dev, tell me the 2 or 3 or 4 different types of taxes that are part of a property.
Property tax, mud
No.
tax.
No. So what taxes do we have? Yeah. So property tax is the whole thing, right? But
Yeah.
what are the different types of tax? What are the different types of taxes we're talking about? I'll start. you
Related
off.
to only
City-
property, right?
Yeah. So what are the taxes that we're talking about here? City tax is one. What else?
Mud,
Mud
School.
is another one. What else?
School.
Education tax,
School
School.
tax.
Yep. School. ISD is a tax. What else?
Hospital district.
Yes. There is hospital taxes in some counties. Oh, I just mentioned the other one. What other one are we talking about?
there is street taxes also.
County.
Yeah.
Well, street, there's not a street, it's a city tax, right? So the
Okay.
streets and all that stuff are usually governed by the city. So county, I'm missing one. Which one am I missing here? Let's see. I got city, mud, school, hospital, county. Am I missing one? Can anybody think of anything else that's out there? As far as tax?
education tax,
Library.
education tax.
Yeah, there is one more. Sorry, and not education, because education falls into the school district, right? But guess what? College, right? Community college is also a tax base. All right. So these are certain things that you want to be aware of when you're getting ready to list a home. One thing is, if you're in Las Colinas, what else do you have there? What kind of tax do you have? Does anybody know the name I'm looking for? Anyone that's local that knows what I'm talking about here? DCURD. DCURD is the tax. And if you're in Las Colinas, you need to be aware of that. Just like in Artesia, you need to be aware of the PID tax that's there. And a lot of the communities nowadays, not a lot, I'd say a few of them do have these taxes that you want to be familiar with. All right, so now we're getting into a little bit more of the detail. On the MLS, run the CMA for the neighborhood, and then expand the search for like-sized properties in 1 to 2 mile radiuses. All right, so we're going to actually do that. So give me a second. Let's get into the MLS. Hang on, guys. And I'm going to use one of my own properties to do this with. Okay. Or does anybody want to give me a property to do this with? Anybody have a property they want me to run a quick CMA on? Anyone?
Sure, I have one.
All right, put it in chat.
Okay.
Let's take a look. And is it Dallas or is it Austin?
Alan?
Okay. Yep, send it in. Let's take a look at it.
Okay.
All right, so 1532 Redeemer Road in Allen. Let's pull this up. 1532 Redeemer. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? Let's see if what's the first thing I'm going to do here? Who have I not? Anita, welcome. And what would be the first thing I'm going to do as far as pulling up 1532 Redeemer Road? What can you think of? What are we looking for? What's the first thing I want to do?
Like checking the house, like how many bedrooms and how much area, square feet the land is.
Correct. But before that, right? So unless the home is literally brand new, if it's 5, 7, 10 years old, what's one information that I can find on it?
You can find the tax records.
Yeah. But even better is this right here, right? All I did was I just plugged in the address. Oh no, it's not even on the MLS. Huh, interesting. Let's take a look at this. 1532 Redeemer. All right, so this one might be one that we're gonna have to play around with a little bit. So let's do that. Give me a second, guys. So what I was looking for is I was hoping for some history on this property. Why was I looking for history? Does anybody know?
We have a lot of information that we can get from the previous listings.
Exactly. There is so much information that you get from previous listings. All right, so this one's going to be a doozy. And the reason it's going to be a doozy is because it's never been listed. which means what is my next step? So I need to pull up the details of this. All Veronica gave me is 1532 Redeemer Road in Allen. What am I going to do next to get the details?
Can you find from calling card?
Very good. That's exactly what we're going to do. So now I'm going to go to Colin CAD to pull the information. Let me go there real quick. Hang on. So let's do this. All right. So let's go ahead and pull it up and let's see where we are. Give me 1 second. So let's see here. And I'm going to go into my, and keep in mind, you can do this with Williamson County. You can do this with Dallas County. You can. Need that's relevant in this case. Can somebody tell me when I pull this up? What's the relevance of pulling up this address and all this information? What am I doing with it? Right, I need it for my CMA, correct?
Yes.
So if I need it for my CMA, what are the informations I need? All right, so now so let's go back through here. All right, I'm gonna ask Uma, thank you for joining. All right, so give me one criteria that's important in the detail that I need in order to pull some more information off of my CMA. What am I looking for here? I got the details right here in front of me. I'll give you an example. So I know the square footage is what, 2721, right? What else do I need from here? Anyone?
Any upgrades are done, right?
Yeah,
What is the original square foot?
Number of rooms and bathrooms?
Yeah, so I think, can we get number of bedrooms from the CAD? Does anybody know?
No.
Nope. Very good. So what else am I looking for by doing?
No, what is the
ID?
Property ID?
ID.
No, not the
The
property
purchase
ID.
price?
Not necessarily the purchase price, because remember, that's undisclosed, right? In Texas, it's a non-disclosure state. I'm going to put that in my chat because I want you guys to remember this. Texas is what we call a non-disclosure state. That means that the only people that, believe it or not, know about the sales prices is who? Who knows about sales prices in the state of Texas, technically?
Whoever sold it.
No? Well, yeah, that's true, but who else knows about it? Mahesh, who else knows about sales prices in Texas? It's an easy question. Huh?
Buyer.
Well, yes, but who? The buyers, seller, who else? Who else knows about the sales price? Huh?
Real estate.
Real estate.
Very good.
IRS.
Very good. That's it. Yeah,
Realtors.
the realtors,
From the
right?
MLS information.
Exactly. So keep in mind, if you go look at that listing agreement, which we will talk about next week, what does it tell you about what do you have to do as part of you as the listing agent, or as the listing agent, you have to disclose on the MLS the accuracy of the listing. Not only the accuracy of the listing, but you also got to disclose the sales price, right? At the end of the day. So that's where the sales price is. However, the county tax base, and there is a great article on this, the county tax associations are not supposed to have this information. That's why when you go in and you bought your house for 800,000 and on tax it shows as 640,000, is because they're using an algorithm for the community as a whole and not basing it on what you bought it for. All right, so just remember that as we continue to go on. All right, let's get back. So I got square footage 2721. What else am I looking for in order to plug in for my CMA? Anybody else want to take a shot at it? Dev, you just.
Yeah, any improvements kind of,
No, but improvements are not going to be in my tax either, right? Improvements are not going to be in tax. Improvements are going to be.
Ketan, sorry, if I can add.
Do we have to have legal description, Kate?
Very good, legal description. But what is legal description going to give me? I'm looking for two.
Like single story or double story?
I don't know.
No, lot and block.
Block C,
It is a
lot
lot
B.
and block.
No, lot and block, but so I'm looking for just two more things, right? Let me show you guys. All right, so let's see if I can do this real quick. All right, so what is this right here? Can you see where I'm pointing at?
Subdivision.
Subdivision, very good, right? So why do I need the subdivision? I need the subdivision because I'm running my CMA on what? I'm running my CMA on the subdivision, right?
Okay.
So I need
Year
that.
built,
And then, yes, somebody just said it. What was the last thing I need?
year built, year.
Very good. Very good. Because here's the thing, I'll give you a good example. Richwoods. When you go into Richwoods, you have homes that are built in 2011 and you have homes that are built in 2020. How do you differentiate between a home that's, built in 2019 and how do you price it compared to the homes that are built in 2011, right? So if you don't have the data in the MLS, when you go to the tax records, you want this information. You want the year built, right? You need the subdivision and you need the, what did I just say? Square footage, right? All right, let's take a look. Is there anything else we're missing here? And guess what? You're gonna also find, let's see here. Let's go through this, right? So now I got my right property ID, property status, subdivision is Spring Meadow. We got the owner information, which is, I believe, mom and dad. So that's pretty cool. You got your tax information that we just talked about, city, Collin County, Collin College, and Allen ISD, which is great because you don't have MUDs or PIDs. And you're absolutely, whoever said it earlier, you are absolutely right. You will find the story information. And the only way you find it is because you can see here, the main area is 1,700 square feet. Second area is 521. Interestingly, you have a main area 2 and a main area 2. What is, you know what that is, Veronica? Are those additional built-ins or, build outs, or is that just porch or something else?
No, I mean, there was just media room and a game room upstairs, but I'm not sure if they consider one of those being.
All right, no worries. Now, one more thing that it doesn't affect you anymore, but guess who the builder is on this? Does anybody know who the builder is?
Goodman.
Huh?
Goodman.
Very good.
Goodman.
Yeah, and who is Goodman today? So who's Goodman Homes today? Does anybody know?
K Hovnanian.
Very good. Very good. So, and the only reason you want to know that is because it also gives you a reputation for the builder more than anything else. And now that we have everything, now we're getting back to these. So let's go ahead and get to the.
So we need to know the builder name also, correct? Ketan?
That's a good point. Yes and no. If the house is 10 years, 15 years older, you don't necessarily need the builder. And I'm going to ask if somebody is not on mute, if they can mute, it would be awesome. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody that's not muted yet. So hang on one second, guys. All right, thank you. All right, so when you're asking the question about the builder, yeah, here's the thing, right? If you have a community where you got, and I'm not gonna pick on any builders, but let's say you have a community where you have, give me Toll Brothers, right? Toll Brothers is what would we consider on the high end, correct? And I'm gonna mute 2 more people. Hang on, guys. Okay. So Toll Brothers is on the high end. Who else is, give me someone who's on the, and Darling is on the high end, right? So we got Toll Brothers and Darling in the community. Who else would be, so on the medium end in that same community would be.
TriPoint.
Huh? Who?
TriPoint.
TriPoint. Okay, so TriPoint would be, yeah, so TriPoint, American Legend maybe? Is American Legend considered medium? Their price range are about 600,000 to 800,000. Toll Brothers is 800 to 1.5 or more nowadays. Landon would be another one that's on the medium end. And then you got a few that are First Texas, right? Meritage. And I'm not classifying these. They're all based on price points, right? At the end of the day, you got 3 classifications of builders. But when you're at a CMA and you're comparing a Toll Brothers, that's $207 a square foot. And you have in that same neighborhood, you have a First Texas home that is $180 square foot. Guess what? Those are not comparable at the end of the day. The challenge here is going to be your appraisal, because appraisers may not necessarily know that, right? So now we're getting really into deep stuff, which is great. But yeah, so going back to what you were saying, it's nice to know the builders. You don't necessarily have to absolutely understand their price points and all that stuff. All right, so now that I got everything I need for my CMA, and obviously I don't have the history of that property, I'm now going to go in and I'm going to run the preliminary CMA. So I'm going to click on search residential, and I'm going to do a quick search. Okay, so let me move this tab down a little bit. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so now the default here automatically is active, contingent, active kickout, active option. You're going to do pending 0 to 90 days, and you're going to do closed. Instead of 90 days, you're going to do 180 days. Why am I doing 180 days for my CMA statistics? Anybody know why I use 180 days?
Yeah, because closing date takes time.
Yes, but I'm looking for so 180 days gives you what other resource or what other source uses 180 days for their analytics, for their data analytics. Who am I looking for? Who am I talking
It gives
about?
you the trend as well, trend of what the property price increases.
That's true. Yes, that's true, because I can go right now to
6 months.
I can go 6 months out and I can see, in October, it was $170 square foot, and in March it's $200 square foot. That is actually a good point. But more than that, I just added the answer. So who else uses the data from the MLS that they need for valuations? Who am I talking about?
Lenders?
Okay, so
Lenders.
who on the lender side needs this information?
Appraisal?
There you go. Whoever said it,
Appraiser.
Yes. And what do appraisers do? They use 180 days, right? So the reason for me, the way I've learned it to do is I use 180 days only because that is what the appraisers use. I can't use 270 days. I can't use 360 days, only because I'm gonna market myself out of the range that an appraiser uses, right? So I'm gonna use 180 days. What type of property are we talking about? It's a single family residential, right? So I clicked on single family residence. Now, what's the subdivision? It's called Spring Meadow, right? So my wild card is what? What is my wild card? Does anybody remember? I'm using it right now. What are your wild cards in the MLS?
Asterisk.
Very good. Asterisk. So remember that. This is a secret that you guys need to know. The asterisk itself is a wild card in the MLS. All right. So on the bottom, you notice what I'm getting here is 30 matches, right? You see that? If you're looking through my screen on the bottom lower left corner, you'll see that I have 30 matches, right? Right. So now I'm like, okay, so I got 30 matches. What am I missing that's important in this case? Does anybody know?
City.
Very good, very good, very good. Because guess what? That subdivision, Spring Meadow, could be in Garland, which I know it is. It could be in Allen, right? So you want to make sure you have the right city when you're pulling up this data, right? So guess what? I put it in, and wow, you see the difference?
5 months.
Now, if you had sent your clients without looking at that city, and you had sent your clients 30 matches, and they're not looking at it, guess what you would have been seeing? You would have seen 20 properties at $140 square foot out of Garland. And you would have probably seen another, 10 properties out of Dallas at $110 square foot, right? So now you just skewed your numbers only because you did not put it in, right? So always remember, if you need to, I would suggest take a screenshot of this so you can see exactly what we've done. We're not done yet though. So now 2 more things in here. Do you remember what we did earlier? We did the number of stories, right? So guess what? I'm going to click on number of stories here to 2, and that brings me down to 3. Okay. Now the problem is that's not enough for me to go by. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck my 2 stories. I know that 2 of these houses are single story, 3 are 2 stories. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the results. Okay. And I have a different setup. I have 2 different setups. I have, now keep in mind, when you guys go through your trainings and all that stuff on how to pull MLS and all that stuff, create your own CMA view. I did, right? So I have my own CMA view that if this is what you guys are going to see, I'll tell you exactly what you guys are going to see. Hang on, where is that? It is it this one? No, that's not it. It's been such a long time. I think it's one page. Nope, that's not it either. Hang on, guys. Let me see which one it is that they probably took it out. I don't see it. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's your default view that you guys see. The problem is I can't see that default view anymore, but I'll show you mine. So this is my default view. If you notice on my default view, I have added close date to my reporting. I've added the school district. I've even added the listing agent full name. I need that for my rentals to see exactly where we are as far as rentals go. So I've added that for myself. Do you guys know how to do this? I don't want to get into training on MLS today, but really the easiest way is just go in and click on insert column, and you can then insert whatever columns you want. Okay. So that's what I've done here. Here's what I've done. So now I got my close dates, 9/20, 1/5, and 1/10. I got my Spring Meadow. I got 22, 22, 24, 35, and 3,000 square feet. So I don't have anything that says close to 2,700. The great thing is all of these are very consistent year built compared to our property, which is 2002. Perfect. So I'm good there. I don't have to make any changes here. And not only, so one of the other things that I have, and if you guys want to take a picture of this, go for it. You notice original list price, and then I have list price. And then guess what? I have the sold price. So the reason I do that is because a lot of times I just want to glance at, take a look at this last one, right? 425 sold for 503, right? So now I know exactly, you can do this for your CMA. You can do it for CMAs when you're selling homes or buying homes. So remember that. Now I got an idea of where we are: 195, 195, 180, 145, and 163. All right, does anybody know what that comes out to be? I haven't averaged it out yet, but I'm going to do it real quick. At this point, now keep in mind, the two single stories were a little bit higher, right? As you know, and remember, as the price per square footage goes up, as the square footage goes up, the price. So when the square footage goes up, price per square footage, right? What happens to it? Adjusts down. Does that make sense to you guys?
So Ketan, this time we didn't consider pool like you said last time.
Yeah, we've done. Yes, that's very good. So I did not. And here's
there's too much of a difference in the per square price. Like one is 145 and one is 190.
No, so the reason for that, and we'll go through that in a minute, right? So actually, I did not consider a pool, but you are right, because there is one with a pool. That's the only one. But if you remember here, when we came through here, I looked at it, and I should have told you guys that I'm already looking at this. Guess what I don't see in here is a pool, right? Because if that is in there, what do they normally do? They add it to this detail, right? So let me show you a good example real quick. I'm going to pull up my house. Let's see here. Let's just do this one. All right, so here's the details that you need, right? And all right, so you go down here, and what do you notice is that we added a pool and it's not in there. Interesting.
It's there in the bottom, I think.
Oh, there it is. Okay, thank you. Where did it go? All right. So the interesting thing, they didn't add the pool year, but they did add the pool in here. So that's what I was looking for when I was doing.
But Ketan, if you're comparing with like 5 houses and you said one house has pool, so how do we put that in?
You just adjust to it, and I'll show you in a minute how to do that. Right. So right now I'm just looking. So right now I'm just looking for the average of the homes. Right. So I got closed ones average about. Let's see here. The average here is about 3,000 square feet. 3,000 square feet at 163. That puts me at on this house, the one we're talking about. Right. So 163 is the average multiplied by 2721 puts me at about 445 roughly. But that doesn't take into consideration any improvements that have been done. If they've, completely remodeled the whole house and they spent $60,000 on it, guess what? In today's market, they can probably recover it. So I would say right now, I'm just looking at initial 445. Let's go back in and look at a little bit more details. And I don't want to get into a lot of details today, but yes, you notice that the one that's got a pool is, let's see here. Let me go back to my CMA view. I like my CMA view a little bit better than this. All right, so, and I don't think I have the pool added in here. I thought I did. Maybe I don't. Okay, so that doesn't help me either. I need to figure out where the pool is. You know what? Let's just do it right now. Let's get that pool in here. Hang on, guys. Let's see, insert column. Ah, shoot. We're gonna do it now. Okay, there we go. So now it tells me, you see how quickly I did that and how easily that was done? So you guys just use that to your best abilities, right? So now I know the only one that's a pool is the one that's fourth down, 3,500 square feet. And that one was $145. So it
Yes,
didn't,
why does he have the least per square feet?
yeah, he's actually lower price per square footage. So it didn't factor in too much. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take that out. Well, it's not that I can't take it out. I'm just going to pull it out and then refine my list, narrow it down. Let's see what happens here. And now that I got this, let's see what my CMA shows at this point. So we were at 165 earlier. Let's see if that changes any, and it should, because I just removed, or I just dropped the lowest priced one. So it brought me up to 172. So at 172 times 2721, I'm at 468. So Veronica, when you go and sell this house, initially what you're looking at is 445 to 468. And guess what? It might be higher, it might be a little bit lower, but at least now you have a good understanding. Now, keep in mind, in today's market, that 468 is really what?
Low.
500,000, right? Because more than likely, the way the market conditions are today, it's going to have multiple offers first day, right? So, you know, at 2,700 square feet, 468, at that price point, guess what? I mean, you're going to have a lot of buyers, right? Because remember, the way the market is today, we've basically taken out so many of the 200 and 300 and 400,000 dollar homes. So when you have a house that's under 500,000, it's a gold mine, right? So always remember your market conditions as well. All right, so this is a quick CMA. I just wanted to kind of share that with you guys. Let's get on with the rest of the class. Give me a second here. Let me get back in from beginning. Give me and see where we are real quick.
Ketan, I have a question.
Yep,
Based
ask
on,
away.
yeah, based on the property, how can you find out which county it is located?
Oh,
You don't know CAD because the main thing, right? You need a lot of information. They give you address. You want to, you don't know which CAD is that. Take example of, I'll take Austin, right? It has Williams, it has Travis, it has other, right? They give the address. Yes. How can you find out, kind of, you know?
Just the best way to do it is just do a Google search. And when you do a Google search, just say, you know, pull up that address and see what county it comes up in. A lot of times you'll find it just by Google. You're right. I've had that issue before because I was looking for a property I was looking for the property in Dallas County for the longest time. Didn't realize it's in Kaufman County, right? Kaufman County is Forney and Rockwall and all that stuff. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's a hit or miss. I'm trying to remember what the best way to do it is. I would say for now, just, just do a Google search and say, which county is this property in, and see if you can, if
yeah,
that comes up.
Yeah, if you take lands also, right? You never know actually. The land's location is different, the county is different.
Exactly, it's a hit or miss, and that's one. And that's, you know what, Devinder, you bring up a very good point. That is absolutely true. And knowing that portion of the details of the address is instrumental in how you analyze it too, right? So yeah. The first thing you want to know is if you don't know which county. The thing is, the search that you do on the Google search will get you the county that we're talking about. Right. So just remember that. Yeah, just a straight up Google search is the only way that I know of to do that.
And other question I got, right? How can you get the current prices kind of the market? I know we run CMA, right? I want to see what is the current price for the latest houses kind of,
We just did that, the CMA, right? The CMA will give you that. right?
Okay.
Yeah, because if you notice, let me see if I can switch it over without
Yeah.
affecting.
Not only residential, how about commercial or
So commercial,
categories?
you're not going to get it. And just know that. And what I mean by that is, remember, the problem with commercial today is that they don't have a defined MLS system, except for CoStar. And I know we got Anil on here, so but yeah. So Anil wants to Anil raised his hand, so I'm going to let him talk while I go get some water real quick. You want to say something, Anil?
Sure. My hand raise was for residential item. I work for builders as well, so it would be for new construction. Anything that you see after 2018 built, it is always recommended that you ask for the contract if the buyer has. The square footage in the county are most of the times reported lower than what the actual the square footages are. So it's a good question to ask if you get it. Dave, we talked about this about commercial real estate, so we'll take it offline between you and me. But yes, CoStar is a platform to go for commercial comps.
Yep, correct. Yep, very good. And the only problem is that unlike the MLS where you are required to post your sales price, there's no other platform that requires you to put that. Because again, because Texas is a non-disclosure state. So the challenge with commercial has always and always will be the fact that, unless you actually talk to the listing agent, and even if they are willing to share that information with you, it's really, really hard to get that.
Yeah, this is as a listing agent, kind of. Now I want to find it office condos, right? Kind of I want to find out what is the rate, what is selling price.
Go by go by the market today, and keep in mind, commercial is driven by one other thing. It's not based on those sales prices. It's based on financials. Okay, so you got, and this is a whole different category: cap rates, NOI.
Yeah.
So you have to know that information in order to understand what the valuation of the property is, right? So most commercial is based on valuations and not necessarily based on historical data. Okay, so there's something that's a whole different conversation for another day. Okay,
thank you,
Dave. Just so you know, CoStar would give you about 30% of the sold prices, so that would help you in your comps.
Yep, that's true.
Thank you.
All right. So now that we've gone through this, I know we're coming up on 6:40. Evaluate the offer amount sufficient to absorb expected costs. Okay. Wow, I don't remember. Evaluate the offer amount sufficient to absorb expected costs. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, here's what I need to go back and look at my video because I don't remember what I talked about this one, but I think I know what it is, right? Is two things. When you get your, so let's say, for example, that you decide the sales price is going to be 400,000, right? Now you need to work the numbers backwards. Okay. They might, if they bought it now, here's the thing, right? In today's market, it's not an issue because today's market has already gone up by 10 to 15%. But when we're talking about a downward trending market, meaning a market where, the prices are going down or they're stabilizing. If you bought the home 2 years ago for 350,000, right? And now you're selling it for 400,000. Now you have to factor in, what all do you have to factor into this? Does anybody know? What are we talking about factoring in when you are presenting your information to the sellers, right? You're gonna say that again?
Is there any community pool?
No. So
No. You need to find out what's net to the seller. So that means what are the commission that are going to go? What are the pro-rata expenses that they need to pay up from the proceeds of the sale? What are the property taxes outstanding? Is there a lien that the other liens that they need to pay off? And what exactly Ketan means evaluate to offer is when the markets are bad, you want to make sure is seller going to run short on the loan or the outstanding balances against the property, and how you're going to work out that. Do they have enough money in their bank account to put in the deficit? Or you have to go and work with the lender to find out that they are going to let go the gap, or how you're going to work out. Is that going to be an easy payment, or whatever the arrangements are? So that's what Ketan meant by evaluate offer amount sufficient to absorb the expense cost.
Thank you.
Does this also do we need to factor in realtor fees,
Yes.
any repair costs that may be needed to bring the property up to listing condition?
Yes, exactly. Because at the end of the day, what if, you know, it is 350,000, the loan is 350,000, and, you know, the sellers are just, you know, they don't have the money to replace a roof. They could become selling what we call selling short, right? Or what we call a short sale. So again, it's not about today's market. It's about the market that we might see in about 5 years or 7 years. But I want you guys to remember that. Now, I did put in HOAs. What's so important about HOAs today? Does anybody know? And does anybody want to take a stab at what I'm talking about? As far
If
as
there are any dues,
HOA clearance, we need to have.
I'm
HOA.
sorry. Yeah. So HOA, what happened in 2021 when it came to HOA dues? Did you guys read that article in Texas Realtors that I'm talking about? What changed with the HOAs? Does anybody know? I'll give you a hint. The seller is now responsible for majority of the costs. Okay. Remember that. So when in the past, when you do the HOA addendum and it is showing, oh, the buyer will pay up to $250. Guess what? Now you might have certain transfer fees. You might have the resale certificate, which they have to pay for anyway. You might have additional assessments. Like if you live in Castle Hills, guess what you have to pay? You have to pay a school scholarship fund that is paid by, the sellers, right? So there's a lot of different things that you want to be aware of when you are calculating HOAs. Make sure that, and this is going above and beyond, of course, but remember to just, if you have what you should do, and especially if you've submitted offers, instead of 250, make the HOAs 500 on the buyer side. Okay. That will also entice your offer when you're submitting an offer in that case. But as far as HOAs goes, the problem now is it's very confusing, but the problem now is that a lot of the HOA dues that would have been tagged onto the buyers are now tagged onto the sellers. So just remember that. All right, so that is, I think, today's topics. We get into we've done the CMA, and we get into next week, we're going to get into the listing agreements. Okay. All right. So this might become a 3-parter, but the idea is what we've been doing over the years is my attention span is not more than an hour anyway. So I try to keep these limited to an hour as much as possible. Next week, we're going to talk about exclusions. Let's see what we're going to talk about. So we've already done the CMA here, right? And then we're going to talk about the details, as well as the exclusions. And then we're going to get into the listing agreement. And then the last part of it is going to be some of the appendix that we have. Before we leave for the night, any questions, guys?
I have questions. So.
Okay, let's go away.
So Ethan, how do we find this information? Like this is, surprising for me that Castle Hills has, dues for school scholarship. So how do we find these information? So when remember that first engagement with your sellers, ask them. So, and I know a lot of times, people don't even think about it, but ask them, what do your HOA dues look like, right? So that way, and even one step further, have them send you the statements for the HOAs, and engage the HOA and say, hey, can you send me a preliminary resale certificate to see what it's going to look like, or can you give me an idea of what the costs are going to be, right? But the best way is just to ask just like there's a couple of things that all the agents forget. One is the PID and MUD taxes.
which are already in the Collin County and the Denton County tax forms. But PID and MUD is very important, and HOAs, if there's any additional HOA dues that they need to be aware of. So it's really just a question you got to ask the sellers too.
Quick follow-up. So like someone mentioned, I'm not sure if it's Anil or someone. So would this specific information about HOA be available in their original contract?
What do you mean the original contract?
Like when the current seller bought their home from the builder, I'm sure, like we just bought our home, the HOA information, all the restrictions or HOA restrictions.
Yeah. Yes, the CC&Rs is what it's called. It's the covenants and code restrictions. Those are the CC&Rs. Just and I put this in chat so that way you guys can see it. So CC&Rs are covenants and code restrictions. But a lot of times, you're right. There's a 50-page contract that as the builder has you sign, and that has the buyer sign. And in the back of it is usually some of the dues and all that stuff that's related to the property. So that's a good point as well, is you're going to have it a lot of times within the original contract that they had. Is that what you were saying?
Kevin, so can HOA add these dues after, let's say, a few years?
Can they add it after a few years? The only way, the only way they could add it is if there's a lot of times if there's a lawsuit that happens, right? Or let's say, for example, there's a bunch of I'm gonna somebody here. Hang on one second.
I'll take that question, Kiran.
Go for it.
HOA, if you're asking for retroactive expenses billed to the buyer or the seller, the answer is no. HOA clearance certificate is given as of that day for any impending judgments or any extra fees. That being said, if there is an infraction against the property, sometimes HOA would issue infractions, and the seller has not fulfilled that infraction or has not corrected it, then it would come out in the HOA document as a penalty to be paid on closing or before closing by the seller.
And so, and to add to that, going back to what we were just saying, if there's a litigation that happens after the fact, and let's say, the final judgment is for $100,000 against the HOA, then a lot of times what will happen is that amount is then added to your future HOA dues. Okay, and that happens as well. It doesn't happen as much on the HOA on the residential side. It does happen on the condominium side.
Then when that happens, then that becomes a point of negotiation. Who's going to pay for the future expense, future HOA increases? But that's very intricate, and it happens one-off, so we don't have to worry about that right now.
I do have a hard stop, guys. Any other questions? I know we'll have the second set of this next Wednesday, same time, about 5:30. Trying to think if there's anything else today that we need to discuss. No, I think hopefully this was good. It's a good starting point, and obviously we'll continue doing this next couple of weeks with the landing your first listing. It is a lot of detail, and I do want to go through all the details as much as possible.
Just a quick one line. If you end up getting into commercial, speak to Ketan. Speak to the people who are doing commercial. Don't venture out yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very, very good point. All right. All right. And if anybody needs the chat, I'm going to keep it open for a couple of minutes. If you need to take any pictures, or I'll download it if we need it. I'll send the presentations out next week. All right. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. And in the meantime, just if you have questions, reach out. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Ketan.